Okay, hello everyone. It's great to see you. This is Dan King from Fiscal Media, and I'm really excited, as usual, to be continuing our Fist Bump Media webinar series. This session focusing on writer strategy. This is cool because this really kind of combines a few of the things that I really kind of dig the most. Yeah, I've been a blogger, writer myself for 12, 13 years now or so, and I've always loved having the ability, using technology and stuff to get my message, to get my thoughts, my ideas, my stories, everything out there, to share with people and stuff, right? Because I know that my ideas and my stories and stuff can impact and challenge and inspire other people and stuff. So it's one of the reasons. One of the reasons I write. One is, another is I love the art and the craft of doing it and stuff too. So, but the other thing that I really dig is I'm kind of like a data nerd, right? And I really love digging into analytics and understanding, the what's making things tick behind the scenes and stuff. So for today's session, we really kind of combine the two of those things, right? And the focus is how to boost your blog with Google Analytics. And really, the heart of what we're trying to get at today too is that if you're out there, you blog and you have a site, you're blogging, you're writing on a regular basis and stuff. Really, one of your big goals, and I know it is to try to reach new readers, right? You want more than just your mom or your sister or something like that to read your blog posts and stuff too. You write and you put it out there with the hopes that other people are going to be able to see it. So one of the big questions I get all the time with what we do when we work with writers and bloggers, all over the world, is how do I get more traffic to my site? How do I get more readers to come to my blog to read my writing? And today we're taking a look at one of those pieces, and really this is probably, I could argue, one of the most important pieces for how you're going to find new readers, how you're going to get new traffic coming to your blog, to your website, and it's using probably one of the most unlikely sources. A lot of people would think is like, what's the secret tip to get seen more on social media or something like that too? It has nothing to do with that, right? We're going to be looking at your own data, your own Google Analytics. If Google Analytics is something that you do not have set up and installed on your blog right now, I suggest that you do it right away. If you're one of our hosting clients, basic hosting or better, so that's something we can even certainly help you with, and make sure that's running and starting to collect data for you and stuff too. But your Google Analytics is really going to be one of the best sources that you have available to you to understand what you can do to reach more readers. So we're going to take a look at some things too, because I know a lot of people, when especially writers and stuff, when they think of Google Analytics, they think of it as a glorified hit counter, right? How many people visited my blog today? And it certainly does track that information, but there's so much more to that information and that data. And we're going to explore that stuff. I'm going to introduce you to a few kind of key concepts that you'll encounter and you'll find when you're looking in Google Analytics to help you understand some of the data and stuff. And listen, I could probably teach a 2-3 week course on just Google Analytics. So we're going to kind of scratch the surface here a little bit, but it's going to be some stuff that help you kind of understand what's going on in there, so you can interpret some really core key data that are going to give you some great things to do to help you boost your blog and get found by more people. So with that, I want to just kind of jump into looking at what Google Analytics is and some kind of key metrics here. And what I'm looking at right now too, when you set up Google Analytics on your site, and if you haven't done that before too, on the webinar page on our website for this, and the additional resources down towards the bottom of this page, you'll see a link there to a guest post that we wrote at Rise Up Writers about Google Analytics. And it's going to have some steps for how you can set up Google Analytics on your website. And like I said too, if you're one of our hosting clients, it's something that we're always happy to help out with and get going for you. But once you get Google Analytics installed on your site and it's collecting data, one of the first things you'll see is the dashboard here too. And this dashboard is what I see when I go into audience overview. And this is kind of a core basic dashboard. And there's a few parameters here you can set as well too. You can change the date range. Right now I've opened up the date range really for even a couple of years because I want to kind of look at some big over time data and stuff, and not just what's happened in the last week. But you can certainly change and look at what's happened in the last week, in the last 30 days, last month, whatever custom date range and stuff you want to set, you can do that. You can also do this cool kind of compare this to, a previous period, previous year or whatever too. I'm not necessarily going to compare right now, but it's pretty interesting. If you want to see how you're performing in October of this year compared to October of last year, you can do that, or how you're compared October this year to September last month. And are you improving or decreasing or anything like that too? So you can do some cool comparisons like that to see the trends and how things are going. But we're looking at Fiscal media data too. So I've set this over the course of a couple of years, and I even switch around from day to, give it a second here to load, to week. You see it kind of one little kind of viral spike there and stuff of a lot of traffic in a short period of time or month, right? And it'll show you kind of overall traffic trends. With this period of time here too, there is some increase here, but overall it's a gradual trend. So looks fairly flat with the exception of that one big viral spike there. But as we're looking at this, here are some of the key metrics and things that I want you to understand the differences of. The first one here is users, and this is over the period of time. This is how many users visited the website, and the user is really defined as an individual person, an individual site visitor. So if I come visit your website, I count as a user. Now, in comparison to that, there is also sessions. And sessions are not individual users, but how many visits to your website happened during that period of time. So as a user myself, if I visited the website 3 times, then I count as 3 sessions to the website. Okay. So there's a difference between users and sessions, right? Users is the individual people. Sessions is the total number of visits to the website when whatever time frame you're looking at. And based on those two, you even kind of see a number of sessions per user. So the average user visits the website this number of times, and that's from the one-time visitor that never comes back to the one who's reading every blog post on your blog every single day and stuff. So that's the average there for that. The next one is page views. This is that kind of hit counter that the traditional, how many hits did you get on your website? Is what people tend to look at for that too. And this is page views. This is how many pages were visited. So even me as a user, if I visited the website 3 times, and each of those times I visited 3 pages, that would count as total 9 page views, right? So on any given session, if I visit the website and I visit 3 different pages while I'm there, those page views then will break down into pages per session. So now this is a really important number. To me, page views is kind of a good indicator of how much traffic and how many pages are being visited on your website, so how much activity is going on. But more important than that, this is one that I look at as pages per session. And pages per session is if I, on one of my visits, visited 3 pages on the website, on average, this is how many pages people are visiting on your website when they come to visit. Now, typically, and we'll see this here in a second too, typically when we look at something like bounce rate, and bounce rate is defined as somebody visits one page and then they leave and exit that same page. So it's a one-page visit, right? So there's only one page view for that one session. It's a bounce, right? So really, when you get people to your website, you want to try to maintain a certain level of engagement on your website. So having a lower bounce rate is really better. You see my bounce rate a little on the north side of 50%. If I like to see if it's under 50%, then we're doing something right. If it's over 50%, there's probably some work that we need to do. But those bounces are going to count as 1, right? So pages per session will be 1. So really, the lower the number you have, if it's just 1, you want to try to raise that up and get a little bit higher. How high? Well, it depends, right? 2 pages per session may be great. 3 may be great. 10 may be great. It really depends on your content. I wouldn't necessarily benchmark this against anybody else, but this is something that I use as an indicator for the quality of traffic that is coming to your website. If it's a really low number, then the quality of traffic coming to your website is probably pretty low too, because they're only hitting one page and they're leaving. You're having that happen more often. You probably have a high bounce rate, another one of those quality metrics, and consequently too, you probably have a pretty low average session duration, right? So when I come visit the website, how much time am I spending on average on the website, right? So this is counting everything from that 1 second visit and bounce and I'm gone, to the person who spends 30 minutes reading 10 blog posts, right? So this is the average. Again, what's the right number? Really, I won't necessarily benchmark that against somebody else, but if you think about it, if you write a blog post and say it takes 2.5 minutes to read, your 500-word blog post, then 2.5 minutes is enough time to read one blog post. You probably like to see your time on site be north of 2.5 minutes then. So that, again, that'll depend. That'll really, there's a lot of factors that will drive that. But when you look at things like pages per session, average session duration, and your bounce rate, those are your kind of quality metrics right there. They kind of give you an idea of not how much traffic is coming to your website, but how well is your site performing, okay? And from an overall perspective, I mean, these are averages for every visit, to any page on your website, no matter how they got there or anything like that. But those are really important numbers, especially as we start to dive into other types of information, so that you can really start to kind of determine what's working well and what's not, because that's going to be one of the big keys to understanding how your Google Analytics data can help you get more traffic to your website. Okay, because it's really all about kind of understanding what that traffic is doing. Okay, so those are some of the key metrics that we're looking at, and so now I want to try to dive into a couple of reports. The first one I want to dive into, if you're looking in your Google Analytics here, is let me close this up and we'll go to acquisition, and then I'm going to go to all traffic and then to channels. Okay, so this is showing you that when people come to your website, where they are coming from. And I have one of these ready here for us too. This is showing where they come from. Okay. And when we try to analyze where they're coming from, we'll see the different sources here broken down. So direct is typically they type in the website address into the address bar and get there. Referral, or something similar to that. Referral has to do with maybe coming over from a link from another website. Organic search is, when your content is showing up on search engines organically and you're not doing paid search, which is, you can see behind my picture here too. Let me see if I can shrink myself a little bit. There we go. You see, paid search would be paid ads. So it's the Google ads that show up in your search results and stuff. So organic search is not the ads, it's the regular search results. And you got social. Other, it could be described as a lot of different things too. We're not typically dive too deep into that one. And then email. So if I send somebody an email, maybe it's a newsletter subscription or some kind of email, promotional email, or whatever. Those emails are going to lead back to my website. So within this data, you can see how much traffic I'm getting from each of the different sources. But again, more importantly, one of the things I really want to look at is that quality of the traffic, those behavior metrics, right? We looked at bounce rate, pages per session, and average session duration. So of all the sources on here, you see things like, if average pages per session is 2.82, you see referral, organic search is getting 3.17, email is getting 3.2, time on site, again, 309, which is higher than my average. Again, organic search, 306, higher than my average. Referrals, higher than the average of stuff. The ones that are bringing me down are paid search. You can see the quality of traffic coming from paid search, really high bounce rate, really low pages per session, really low average session duration. So over this period of time, some of the paid search that I've done, you can see that the quality of that traffic is really low compared to other searches. I'm doing much better getting referral traffic, links from other people's websites, organic search, and email. And then when I consider email too, I see how strong of traffic it is. In fact, it's one of the lowest bounce rates. Great pages per session is the highest one on here. But it's lower volume, right? I'm not getting nearly as much traffic as I am coming from social media or organic search, which tells me that if the quality of traffic is that good, then maybe I need to spend a little bit more effort in communicating by email to my readers, right? So even within this data too, there's some even additional digging into. So for example, let's take a look at social, because social, it's got some good time on site on average there. The pages per session is not quite as high, but it's stronger. It's better than the average. But let me take a look at social. Let's see. Take a look at social. And this is even going to break down then which social channels the traffic is coming from. So you can see Facebook at the top of the list there. We're getting most of the traffic. It's driving the bulk of it and stuff. Twitter, LinkedIn. But look at some of these numbers within here, this behavior stuff, right? The traffic coming from Facebook, bounce rate is right about average. Pages per session is right about average. Time on site is right about average. Okay, but LinkedIn, it's got really low bounce rate. Time on pages per session and time on site 534 is 2 minutes above my average there, right? So I'm getting a lot more pages. Fewer people are bouncing coming from LinkedIn. And then also too, even look at this, jump down to YouTube, very few visits, but 40% bounce rate. That's right the sweet spot where I want to be. Okay, 4.8 pages per visit. The most pages per visit of any of the social channels is coming from YouTube. 933 average time on site. So again, blowing away my averages. So when I look at improving the traffic that's coming to my website, when I look at this data, the story that it's telling me is Facebook is driving most results, but is very average. So maybe not stop that necessarily, but I really need to invest more time and effort into LinkedIn and YouTube as serious channels where I start doing more of my marketing and trying to drive traffic to my website, right? Because the quality of traffic there is through the roof, right? So if I can if I can 10 times the amount of LinkedIn traffic that I have coming, then I just exponentially went, how much more pages are they visiting on my website, right? Which is a great thing. So look at those as sources for, not just what's driving the most traffic, but look at the behavior metrics to see the quality of the traffic that's coming, to help you kind of determine where you should be investing more of your effort within different channels. So based on this, I would look at not only the organic search and the email is places I want to try to make sure I'm investing more in myself to try to improve, but even from social media. Keep doing Facebook, that's fine. But definitely look more at LinkedIn and YouTube. So you can see my social media strategy and my strategies for how I'm trying to reach people, using email more, doing more on platforms like LinkedIn and YouTube and stuff. You see how that's starting to shape my strategy for how I'm going to get more readers over to my website. Okay. The next one that I want to take a look at, and that was acquisition channels, where the traffic is coming from. The next one I want to look at is if you go under behavior, site content, all pages. Okay, there's a few ways I can drill this down too, and you can just see like landing pages. Landing pages talks about the pages that the first page that people land on when they visit your website. So if you share a link on social media, or somebody found something you did in a blog post you wrote on a Google search, for example, right? Those pages are the landing pages. Is that the first page that people land on? So really valuable information there to kind of tell you about what's getting people to your website. All right. Maybe we'll take a look at that here in a second too. But as I look at all pages, here's one of the things that I really try to kind of check out too. Again, it's not so much which pages are getting the most traffic. And again, this is the Fistbump Media website. So, I've got client area login pages and stuff are really important to get a lot of traffic to those areas. But again, as we look at the pages, look at those behavior metrics and look at the bounce rate, average time on page, stuff like that to really determine what's working well and what's not. So as you're looking through these kinds of pages on your site, look for the blog post, right? Look for the blog post that you're writing. And for me, because I have a lot of other secure login pages, things like that too, I could come down here a little bit before I start finding some blog posts. But for example, one of the blog posts that I find is a blog post that I have, should I make a website for my book? Okay. As I look at this data, right, I can see average time on site 420, again, well above my average. Pretty high bounce rate though, right? This is the bounce rate column here is at 93%. They're spending some time on the site and I'm getting some decent traffic over time. And this is a blog post that I put together a long time ago, right? But it's getting a really high bounce rate, which means a lot of people, the majority of people, even though they're spending some good time on the site, the majority of people might be on that page are hitting that page and they're bouncing and they're leaving right away. So one of the things that I want to try to do is, and this is the key, right? Because I believe that the best content that you have is not the next great blog post idea that you wrote about, but it's something that you've already published, that's already on your website, that's already ranked on search engines, that's already drawing certain kinds of traffic and stuff. And really one of the big keys here too is how can I optimize that and make that even better? Okay, so if I jump over to the site and I take a look at that blog post, here it is. And one thing that I'll tell you as we look at this is that I've done some redesign and stuff. And this is an old blog post, but I've done some redesign that has changed how my blog pages are formatted and how they look, right? So the featured image that I selected for it too, it was a big square one, okay? And you see the square one too, but you see how that featured image is kind of chopped up and doesn't really show much other than some kind of dark background and some words. Words which, by the way, happen to be part of the blog post title, which also appears right there. So a little bit of a redundancy, okay? So in this case, if I want to try to improve the visitor experience when they come here, it might make sense for me to reconsider, what I'm using for the featured image for this post, and I can change that, right? So I can change that featured image, make it something more relevant, more appealing and stuff to somebody who shows up, other than just a dark background with some text on it. Scroll down, and you can see too that when I've kind of set up this this new design, I use really kind of a full column design here too without a sidebar, but this is still shortening up and trying to force in a sidebar that has nothing in it, right? So even the blog post itself right now is just formatted a little bit off. That's not the best kind of experience. Somebody visits this web page, they might be thinking, this is somebody who doesn't really care about how their content shows up, right? So maybe that's why they bounce. Maybe they see it and go, yeah, these guys don't care. Boom, I'm gone. So really, part of my tweaking here is just looking at the blog post and going, oh, what do I need to fix? That, in this case, simple things, right? Just by looking at it. My analytics doesn't necessarily tell me this, but my analytics did tell me that this is getting substantial traffic, but the traffic isn't sticking around. So I want to try to play with that experience. So let me clean this blog post up. I can go back, I can edit the post, change the featured image. There's a setting I know in my theme that says, make this no sidebar. So it'll kind of space it back out right, and then just clean up the look, right? And maybe there's also something too, as I look at this post, that I can say, hey, this is about websites and self-publishing and stuff too. Maybe I could throw in a little call to action, a special graphic advertising my own services here, or something like that too, or promoting something else, or drop in a hey, subscribe now widget, which is something you don't see in the blog post right now, right? You don't see a subscribe for a blog post in that page. So there are some things that I can do certainly to optimize that. And a subscribe now thing may be a great thing, because if I can get them on my email list because I've provided a better, nicer experience, then having them on my email list, I know, is a tactic that has worked pretty well for getting new readers and driving that traffic to my website. So use those analytics, right, to find top performing blog posts, right? Find out the posts that are working well for you, and then look for the opportunities to improve that experience for those visitors. Okay. Speaking of improving experience for the visitors, there's another piece of analytics that I want to look at too. And this one, we've looked at some stuff under acquisition and some under behavior. This one is under audience, right? And audience overview is where we see that first basic overall traffic stuff that we were looking at, where I was kind of defining the bounce rate and all that. But in this, I want to go under audience, then I want to go to mobile, and then overview. Okay, there's a lot of information here too about the technology people are using, what kinds of phones are they on, an iPhone or Samsung, or are they using an iPad, or laptops or whatever, right? There's a lot of information here too that kind of clue you into about who it is, male, female, what are your demographics, stuff like that too. But one thing in particular I want to take a look at is this mobile section, right? We understand the importance of thinking mobile first when it comes to design. This is something that Google is taking seriously right now, and in fact, a major ranking factor for Google for your website is how your website performs on mobile. Right, regardless of how much traffic you're getting, from mobile or not, they will rank you based on how your site performs on mobile. So, for example, so mobile is an important thing too. So if I go audience, mobile, overview, this is going to show me how much traffic I'm getting from desktop, from mobile, and from tablet devices. Okay, so you can see that really for me, for the Fiscal Media website, 75% of my traffic is coming from desktop. When a lot of the stats have said that the mobile is taking over more in getting more than 50%. In some cases, with some websites, I see that's true. But this is why it's important to look at your own data to see how your own visitors are experiencing you and stuff too. But mobile accounts for 21, almost 22% of my traffic. So a pretty small portion. But if I look at this, right, look at this again, those quality metrics, right, my bounce rate is way higher. In fact, it's something that's dragging my bounce rate up is people coming from the mobile experience here. Pages per session is way low. If they're coming from desktop, again, they're really high. It's over 3 pages per session, higher than my average. Over 3 minutes, 3:06 on the website, average time on site, way higher than my average. Whereas coming from mobile, it's 1:07. So one of the things that this tells me too is that I need to do some optimizing to the website overall for the mobile experience. Okay. And one of the things we saw too is when I got people landing on pages like this, and I'm running 95% bounce rate on a page like this, because this is not optimized well for mobile. It makes sense, right? So I can see the work that I have to do and stuff, and in taking the time and going back and making it really part of my ongoing content plan. Of maybe one day I'm going to write a new blog post, maybe another day I'm going to go back and optimize a blog post or two or something like that too. Some of the stuff I can do really just from a blog post. Some of the stuff I might need to just take a look at some of my overall website design too, and see, is it mobile friendly enough? And what does that experience look like? A lot of times these days when I'm developing a website, I'm really developing for mobile first and then desktop second. So I want to see, how does this look on mobile, and then after that, customize and tweak for desktop. Okay, so that data can really kind of change your user experience, because here's the thing: if people are bouncing and leaving, you're not capturing them as a reader. They might not even read a single word if they get to a page and it's just unreadable, or it's a bad experience and stuff too. So take a look at that and look for ways that you can improve based on what your data is telling you there. Okay. So those are really 3 kind of key reports. We talk about the acquisition channels, we talk about the pages and the behaviors there and stuff. And we also talk about the audience as well too. And in fact, I want to jump back real quick to the audience one. And I told you I might take a look at landing pages really quick, and I'll show you how this is a little bit different than just the overall all pages, because this is going to show you the first page that they visited. And this is really kind of a big deal, because when you look at the first page that they visited, that's going to tell you which of those pages have the really high bounce rate and stuff, right? And in this case, something like this free website analysis is getting an 85% bounce rate, right? That's a page I need to go back and visit and and take a look at. This page for 30 days of self-pub, right, has got a really low bounce rate. That's doing fantastic. Okay, so maybe there's some best practices looking at that page that can show me what I should be doing on some of these other pages that have the higher bounce rates. Okay, so take a look at that, because again, that's the content, and I can open this up and say, show me the top 50 landing pages on my site. And how are they all performing from a metrics perspective, and then get clues from those. If it's a landing page, it means it's doing something to get traffic to your website. What you need to do is focus then on how and where can I make those improvements. What's working well, that's rocking, keep that going. Where do I need to make improvements? Take the time to focus on doing that. Okay. Um, One of the other things, though, and this is kind of a bonus tip because this isn't necessarily in your Google Analytics, but it's in another tool that comes from Google, and it's called Google Search Console. Used to be called Webmaster Tools, but it's called Google Search Console. And this does require a separate setup to basically get a little code, line of code that'll give you when you're creating your account and you're adding your site in Google Search Console, and then drop that into a special place in your website. Again, we can provide instructions on how to do that, but if you're a hosting client, again, just let us know and we can make sure help get this set up and everything for you as well too. But Google Search Console, it goes a little bit deeper than what you would see in Google Analytics, and really looking at how your content is showing up in search. Okay. So within Google Search Console, there's a really cool performance report. And in the performance report, I come in here and you can toggle these on and off and stuff to show or not show in the data and stuff. So right now I've got them all on. But it shows you some things about really, how many impressions, which is when I show up in search, how many times am I showing up in search? And relax when you look at this. I mean, it could be in the first 10 pages of search. So yeah, you're showing it. Somebody did a search on so and so, and you were on page 10, regardless if they even went to go look at page 10 or not. Those are impressions, right? Those are opportunities where you might show up, have an opportunity to appear. And then there's total clicks, right? So coming from organic search, not paid search or anything like that. Again, the organic, natural search rankings. How many clicks came over to my website in any given period of time? So this in the last 3 months, right? So I'm averaging a little over 1,000 clicks per month coming over from organic search. And this is data for BibleDude.live, my personal blog. And I'm using this because I saw some really interesting stuff in here that I wanted to show you. So show me the clicks, which tells me the basically the total impressions. Divided by the clicks, whatever, right, gives me a click-through rate, a CTR, the click-through rate. And then also to the average position. Again, this is among all keywords. And positions 1 through 10 is the first page, 11 through 20 is the second page, right? So on average, among everything that I'm ranking for that Google's picking up right now, anywhere page 1 through 10, I'm right about the end of page 2 total, okay, which is not a bad number. But again, benchmark that against yourself too. Here's the thing, that as rankings increase for you, that number can get lower, which is a good thing too. But as you start ranking for more terms, you might have more terms starting to enter the spectrum on page 10, 9, 8, 7, whatever, which will make that number go up and stuff too. But that's a good thing too, right? The more terms you're ranking for, the better. So take it with a grain of salt, really. But a couple things I want to look at here too is as I'm looking through this, and this isn't showing me the pages, but it's showing me the search queries, right? That people are using. These are the search terms, and you can see really based on the top 3 here, there are a few different variations of some very similar search terms and stuff, but each one of those is counting as a separate one. Okay, so one thing that I do know when we're looking at search traffic is that where you rank even matters. The majority of the clicks are going to go to whoever's ranking in position number 1. I think it's around a third. It might be about 35% or so of that is going to position number 1. Then position number 2 gets a little bit less than that. Position number 3 gets a little bit less than that. But when it gets down to it, about 2/3 of the search traffic is going to go to positions 1 through 3. So ultimately, when I look at search engine optimization for something, I'm looking at going for the top 3 positions. So if I'm ranking between 1 and 3, that's ultimately the goal. And in fact, you see this one here. The Word of Life is ranking at 2.9, so it's in the top 3. It could be a little bit better, right? But it's ranking 2.9, which is getting me a 10.6, which is right on what I would expect for position number 3, about a 10% click-through rate. Now think about this. If I were to get this from position basically 3 up to position number 1 for this term, that's the difference between 10% click-through and 35% click-through, which is about 25% increase, which means instead of getting 86 clicks over to my website, if I'm getting another 25% on top of that, in this case, which would be another 200, right? If I'm getting 200 new visitors by moving this up 2 spots, right? So this is really key, because this information can give you some really great insights into what you need to be doing to try to improve your search engine rankings. So for example, when I look at the SEO strategy, especially for small businesses, I look at the stuff in 1 through 3 as that's where it needs to be, right? Hopefully I can get 3s up to 1, 2s or 1s and stuff too, but if it's 1 through 3, I'm pretty happy with that. So my goal, my focus then is focusing on anything else that's on page 1, so positions 4 through 10, and then on the second page and the third page. So I go from positions 4 through 30 as being my, what I call the low-hanging fruit for traffic, right? So you can see some terms here too, right, where I'm ranking position 12. That's on the second page. My click-through rate there is less than 1%, which is exactly where I would expect it to be. For being on the second page, is almost invisible, okay? But if I can bump that up and work that up into a position 1 through 3, and even if I'm getting 10% of the traffic, you see the total search volume there is over 1,300, almost 1,400. That's if I even get it to that point where it's at position 3 and getting 10%, if I get 10% of that traffic coming over instead of half of 1%, instead of 7 visits on my website, that's 140 visits on my website. Okay, so I can tell you based on the keywords and stuff too. And I can go do those searches as well to see the results and see where I'm ranking. But I can even tell you, going into my blog, what blog posts those are referring to. So I may want to go in and look at those blog posts and see what can I do within the blog post, maybe to improve that experience again. Sometimes it may be visual stuff like this. Sometimes it may be, do I need to add a few more links in here and stuff, right? What other kinds of SEO tactics? And we have some other webinars that kind of dig into understanding some of the SEO and things you can do for SEO too, to really help and kind of improve those pages. But yeah, work on improving those pages, maybe creating more links back to those pages and stuff too. And again, here's one of those tactics. Okay, so this little bonus tip. This is a guest post that I ran. Again, 7 epic ways to boost your blog post for SEO. It's over on Rise Up Writers, riseup-writers.com. And in looking at this too, typically my rule for links in a blog post is to have 2 links to other posts on the same website. So in this case, there's you'll find a couple links to other posts on the Rise Up Writers website, but then also 2 links to off of the website. And if I'm guest posting somewhere else, you can see if I come down, one of the links that I'm going to have here too is this, built to support your SEO strategy, right? And it's just natural. It's part of the flow of the conversation and stuff too. But we took the opportunity to link that text back to one of my blog posts on the Fist Bump Media blog, right? So this is a link on another website. I'm guest posting here, and it's a link naturally built in. I'm not forcing it, and I'm not doing this to create the link stuff necessarily, but I naturally had kind of built in a link back to my own website, and I'm not filling this up with a whole bunch of links to my website. I've really got one link in there back to my website for something too, but target that, right? So that creates additional links, and that's the kind of thing too that can help me boost these, because it starts sending the right signals. So if I do some of the the on-site cleanup stuff and how do I better optimize it for those kind of keyword terms. But then maybe I've got a popular post, and maybe I can easily work a link into it on a guest post on somebody else's site somewhere when I'm writing somewhere else. So those additional links help create some of the off-site signals in addition to the on-site stuff that you're creating, right? So I do that, right? And if I'm bumping up from 6, 7, 12 second page, right, up into that top 3 positions, and even if I get to 10%, you could see those can account for, if I'm getting 10% on each of those separate terms, that's some substantial traffic that I can drive back to my website and a lot of new readers. Okay, so that's the big key there too, is using this kind of analytics data to help you figure out how to optimize content that you already have on your site, that you're already ranking for in some ways, to get you to higher levels, because that's where you're going to find new readers, right? Especially coming over from search. We all hope to get the blog post that goes viral on social media and stuff too, but you could see right there, there's an opportunity to create substantial content or traffic coming over from new readers that are just doing searches. Okay, so with that, I really want to kind of jump into what you do with this stuff. Okay, it's one thing to know, it's like, oh, there's some cool information in the Google Analytics, oh, Google Search Console, there's even more cool stuff, and I need to make sure those are set up on my site. But really, how do you really turn this into a big boost for your site, for your blog? And for that, you really need an action plan for continual improvement. The first thing you need is just a plan. Put it on your calendar, right, to do a monthly analytics review. Look back over those things that we looked at. Where's the traffic coming from? Are there things that I need to do different on certain social media channels, or do I need to continue to invest more in the emails that I send, and how's that working with driving traffic and stuff? Review some of those, even just the 3 basic reports that I just showed you: the acquisition channels, the behavior, site content, all pages, the audience stuff, for mobile, right? How are those performing stuff? Look at even just 3 basic reports like that to try to pull out what's working really well and where are your opportunities. But do that monthly analytics review. The second thing is while you're doing that, is to identify and optimize your top channels. Okay, in the data that we saw for me, I need to be doing more in, and when I say top channels, I'm really talking about from the behavior perspective, those the behavior metrics that kind of show how well the content is performing. Look at that. I need to invest more and optimize my emails. I need to work more on LinkedIn and YouTube. So I'm going to add those to my plan for things that I need to do right now. They're going to help me drive more traffic to my website. Now we can do a whole webinar on how to improve traffic from any one of those channels, right? And that's something certainly I've kind of queued up in my list of ideas for future webinars. But start to look at those and identify those top channels and continue to optimize those. The next thing is, based on that monthly analytics review, identify and optimize the top pages. Okay, when you publish content on your blog, it should have a very long lifetime value. Don't resign yourself to writing a blog post and publishing it and then letting that live out for a day or 2 or 3, and then that's it, right? Leverage that content over and over and over again over time. We have whole webinar sessions too on how to continue to make that stuff come alive, month after month. But really find those top pages, the ones that are performing the best, and that are already capturing great traffic stuff, but maybe need some improvement on those behavior metrics and stuff too, and then continue to optimize those. Optimize those so that they will help you draw in more traffic, but optimize those so that once the traffic gets there, you're capturing them better as a reader. And maybe hopefully even doing a better job of converting them into like an email subscriber or something like that, if that's one of the channels that you need to work on best, so do that. Guest post. You should have guest posting as part of your regular blogging strategy. I like to try to set a goal to guest post on one smaller blog and one bigger site every month. I don't always accomplish that, but that's a goal I like to try to set so that I have regular content going out on other people's websites. And by the way, those help me with my link building strategy of creating additional links back to my content. And don't just necessarily think about linking back just to your homepage. Link back to content that needs that extra little boost, right? That the content that maybe it is already performing well, but the additional links back and stuff can help it continue to perform better. And here's the thing: if you have a trend of writing about a certain topic or idea, in general, your niche for what you're writing about, it's not a stretch for you to write about that same niche on somebody else's blog, right? And then have very natural opportunities to link back to content on your own site, that you want to, make sure it gets noticed. And it's not even so much just about creating links back to your site and your content and trying to get those visitors through those blog posts, but it's also about creating the signals that search engines are going to pick up. This is a big part of your link building strategy. And then the fifth thing I want you to do on a regular basis every month is to work on improving your website structure, right? Look at the overall layout design. If you need to do improvements, if your data is showing you that your mobile traffic stinks, and it's not high quality traffic, make improvements on a regular basis. Do it not only on a site-wide scale, but on an individual blog post perspective. If you have high-performing posts that you're identifying and working out on a regular basis, and that you're going back and retouching to try to make improvements based on identify and optimize those top pages, look at that. Make sure that post still looks great, right? And is consistent with your messaging and your branding for how you're doing things today. Also, develop hub pages. And what a hub page is it's a kind of post where if you have a series of content around a very similar topic, right? And I'm not talking about just generally speaking like categories, of stuff and everything too, but if you have, say, 3 or 4 or 5 blog posts around a very specific theme, okay, create a page that kind of becomes the centerpiece page for that topic that then links to those other blog posts and stuff, right? So we call that a hub page because what it does is it becomes the central hub for content on that very specific idea, okay? And this does really great things for SEO. It does great things for user friendliness and stuff too. And and honestly, I see a lot of bloggers, they do the write on a topic for 30 days straight, and then they might have a page where they list out each of the blog posts for that topic. That's a hub page, right? So some of you may even already be doing this, but look for opportunities where you can create hub pages like that too, that can create some really good value. That might be, hey, these are my top 7 posts on this idea. Create a hub page that links them together basically, and that becomes a landing page that you can share on social media, becomes something that gets found on search engines, pretty well and stuff too. So that kind of site structure, and you can even add it to your menus and so on. So use those to help improve your website structure. So do this, your action plan, monthly analytics review, put it on the calendar, commit to it, going back in there and looking for those opportunities to identify and optimize your top channels, identify and optimize your top pages, find guest posts, right, and hit some of those, link building, right, of, if you look into your Google Search Console and you see search terms that you're in that low-hanging fruit area, positions 4 through 30, maybe find some opportunities especially to do some guest posting around similar topics, and work in links and stuff to your posts that are around those terms and stuff. That helps send the right signals and improve your site structure on a regular basis, right? Commit to doing this, cleaning up, and continuing to improve and tweak your layout design and develop hub pages like that. So with that is how you use your Google Analytics to boost your blog, right? There's a lot of really great opportunity in your Google Analytics to find the pieces that need the work, that need the attention. And like I said, really the best content you have is not the next great blog post idea that you think up, but it's the content that you already have. How can you leverage that to continue to bring in new readers, through search, social, email, whatever. So with that, I'm gonna leave you with that at this time, and check out some of the resources that we have below and stuff too. We can even help you with a really in-depth audit of your blog, to really understand what's working, what's not, where your opportunities for improvement are, to really help you leverage and capture some of that stuff too. We'll even schedule a one-on-one call with you too, but there's a link to that below on the webinar page here too. So with that, just want to drop you the fist bump, boom, and have a rockin' day. Thanks for joining us.